This was the cooperation with the federal government, also the city, and COTS. There is a federal law that if there is a federally used building that is going to be decommissioned, it can be transferred at no expense to a local authority. And COTS qualified, and COTS and the city worked together to come to a conclusion as to what would be the best way to utilize this. And obviously it was to provide desperately needed short-term shelter for the homeless folks in the Chittenden County, Burlington area. Number two, I think it was a wise decision to have COTS to be the entity that was going to run this. They've got a long history of working with the challenges that homeless folks face, and is in a position to staff this and provide the best possible shelter for folks. So what I find really satisfying about this is the partnership, the cooperation between the federal government and our city government and local institution, COTS, and of course our state helped as well. But the other thing that's so just poignant and just such a challenge is that it's heartbreaking to walk into this on a pretty cold day. It's about 30 degrees out there, and think about folks who last night had no place to be, and where the housing crisis is getting worse, not better. You know, at the end of the day, we absolutely have to be building more housing, and it has to be affordable housing. It has to be for workforce, middle income folks, and that is going to take an all hands on deck approach. But the challenges are immense. But in the meantime, what is so absolutely existential is that folks in the harsh Vermont winter have a place to come in out of the cold and at least have a place that's clean, a place that's warm, and a place that's safe. So this is a tremendous asset. 58 beds means 58 folks each night who can be warm, who can be safe, and with the other services that COTS provide can be fed. Also, in talking to the COTS folks, you may speak about this, Jonathan, but there's no single profile of who it is that is so in desperate need of this. It includes folks who have a job. It includes folks who have 2 jobs. It also includes folks who have serious mental illness without the things that are necessary to treat that. And it includes folks who have serious substance abuse problems. So this is a challenge that's ongoing. So we celebrate the success of this opening with the 58 beds, but we acknowledge the extraordinary challenge that awaits us. And it's a challenge that is most acutely felt by folks who have absolutely no housing, no place to be on a cold Vermont night. But this whole question of the challenge of housing applies to everyday Vermonters who are working hard, want to show up and get the best that they can, but can't find an affordable apartment, they can't find an affordable house. So I think this should be a cause of celebration, but a reminder of the urgency that our state and our country faces about getting affordable housing that's made available to all our citizens. Jonathan?
Thank you, Senator. We are very excited to offer this this beginning of a project, this warming shelter, to our community at a very desperately needed time. At the same time, we couldn't agree more that what we need to do is develop more affordable housing, more deeply affordable housing, and residential settings for folks who need medical care and mental health care. As the Senator mentioned, we have a wide gamut of folks who come to us for services. So many of our guests in our current shelters are full-time employed and really struggling to make it in today's economy. So we offer this Band-Aid. We know there's a larger systemic issue that we all need to tackle. We're very grateful to the Senator and his team for helping us launch this. We're also very grateful to the city, particularly the Fire Marshal's Department and Planning and Zoning, for coming together really quickly and responding to this, to launching this project with us.
Senator, is there anything on the horizon for housing, from homelessness up through just for anybody to be able to have housing? Is there anything coming at the federal level for this?
There is. You know, we have a new Congress and the new chair of the Banking and Housing Committee, Tim Scott from Georgia, and I have been talking, and it is the goal to have a very significant increase in federal support. But it also, what we understand too, is it also takes real local engagement, because the challenges of housing have been magnified with the supply chain cost, and the cost of construction is way up. It's a problem we have with the vouchers, actually. So there also has to be a significant local effort where you're dealing with zoning issues that have made density problem. Vermont has been taking steps on that. In my view, this is going to be a long-term ongoing challenge to get the housing market back into focus. You know, when I came to Vermont, I mean, I tell this story, but it really is so poignant to me. I made $9,000 a year, but I had an apartment for $135. It was not a big deal. I could pay my bills. You couldn't do that. If Peter Welch came here this year, you couldn't pull that off. So this is something that's going to require our attention constantly at the local, in the state, and the federal level. But I'm really grateful to have an organization like COTS that has people who've committed themselves to helping the folks who need it the most, and also have developed the expertise to work with folks who have a lot of additional challenges to help them become independent. That's the goal.
Jonathan, can you speak to just some of the, basic pieces of information people will need to know to access this place, when it's opening, hours, things like that?
Sure. So we are opening up on the 15th on Wednesday evening at 5 p.m. We are currently doing intakes at our day station, which is just around the corner at 95 North Avenue. We're serving 75 to 100 folks a day, the vast majority of whom are unhoused and are perfect candidates for this short-term shelter. So folks can go to us at COTS at 95 North Ave to inquire about access. We've also announced that to all of our service partners in the area.
Can you talk about just eligibility, kind of who,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So this is set up as a low barrier shelter, meaning folks can come in as long as they can navigate the space and not be harmful to themselves and others, and keep a safe space. We really want to get people in out of the cold. Beyond that, we offer a lot of services at our day station. So we see these as very, very complementary, so that at 8 a.m. when we close this facility, the day station opens. The day station is a service-rich environment for folks where they can start to get connected with the coordinated entry system, with basic income like SSI or the SNAP program and food stamps. We're starting to get our first folks who will be staying here asking about medical appointments, and we couldn't be more happy that people are willing to tell us what they need so that we can help them on their journey toward housing.
Can you talk about just the process of how it works? If somebody gets bed one night, are they guaranteed a bed another night?
Right.
What is that process like?
Right. So we anticipate we'll see about 2/3 of the folks who, as regular guests, coming back to the same cot. We also think about 1/3 of folks might come and go. We really don't know, but based on our experience in running a shelter like this several years ago, we think that's what it's going to look like. Again, the day station is the touch point, as is our manager, who's on from 4 p.m. to midnight, and a manager who's on from midnight to 8 a.m. We'll be able to field any emergency responses or calls at any point during the night.
Is it like first come, first served to people with the day stations that need base? What does that look like?
Yeah, we're trying to get folks who can navigate both spaces, right, in that low barrier model, who can come in and, again, be safe within this space. We want to have consistency for the folks that we're serving. That's the goal, and we'll see how that plays out, right? And I think that once we start to build relationships with folks, they want to come back. They start to trust us. They know that this is beneficial for them too.
Is there a certain date that it will close? Is it only on cold nights? What is
Sure.
that?
No, we will run it from Wednesday the 15th all the way through the end of April. That's the projection for this phase of it. Beyond that, we'll begin some renovations to increase the number of shelter beds that are permanently available in the city.
Great. I think I recall there's some longer term plans for this building.
Yes.
Can you speak about those?
Sure. So we currently operate a shelter known as the Way Station on Lower Church Street. It houses 36 folks. It's been in operation for decades, and it's time for a change not only of the physical space, but also of the layout and how it operates. We'll be moving to a semi-congregate setting here, so there'll be more individual rooms so that we can serve people more flexibly, and we won't have that binary choice of, would you like the men's dorm or the women's dorm, the men's bathroom or the women's, right? It'll just be bunks, rooms, and bathrooms, right?
Can you talk about the fit up that you had to do in this space to prepare it? Was it just like a big empty room before? Were there walls?
Sure. So fit up has been very minimal. We had hoped to do a little more, but knew that the process was indeterminate when we started back in June. And I will also say for the process has gone very quickly. If you think about starting in June when the Government Services Agency announced the availability of the space, to actually getting the deed on January 6th, right at the end of the year, and getting official ownership on the 6th last week. That's an incredibly fast turnaround time. So we haven't had a lot of time to do a ton of infrastructure. So we focused on safety. Safety for the staff, safety for the guests coming in. We have security cameras going up as we speak. And then just maintaining the layout of the space and getting it set up, and the logistics of all the supplies.
I think I was overhearing earlier, so there are showers and such at the day station, not here?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there are no showers, and we just did not have time to undertake a large renovation like that. Otherwise, we'd be opening in April, and that would be no good. So, right.
What was the total money, dollar sign on this?
Well, we have a grant from the state, our other partner in this, and they made money available across the state. We have up to 1.1 million for this project, including the staffing and the fit ups for the building. Yeah.
And I know there was, the hope that this would be open earlier in the winter. Obviously, it's mid-January now. It's been cold for a while. Can you just kind of talk through what some of those barriers have been to opening earlier?
Yeah. So when the state released its funding, they were aiming for December 1 for all of these projects across the state. Pretty early on, we defined it and said, we're in a process of acquiring the space through the federal government. We don't know what that timeline is going to look like. We put our line in the sand back in November and said January 15th is the likely timeline. So that hasn't really wavered.
Would you be able to speak to the need that you're seeing this winter?
Sure. So our day station drop-in center is for folks who are 18 and above. We have seen the numbers quadruple in the last year and a half of folks coming in. And with that has been a demographic change. So the vast majority of folks who we are serving are also unhoused and sleeping rough in the city, which is a shift from a couple years ago where many of our guests were in a shelter program or a motel coming to us during the day for the respite, for services. So we've been seeing more and more folks who are unhoused, and that's a pretty startling statistic across Chittenden County. Yeah. We're estimating anywhere from 250 to 300 people who are sleeping rough right now. So the need is just escalated.
What would you say to folks? There are 58 beds here, and hotels are generally pretty full in Chittenden County. What do you tell people when there's just simply not a space available for them?
That is the hardest and most heartbreaking part of this work for us, for our team, for anybody involved in it. When we've tried everything and there isn't availability, sometimes we do have to say no, and it's just heart-wrenching, right? And I think that's the hardest piece for any of us. But we have the resources we have. We're stepping up to put a dent in the issue, and we'll make a real difference in a number of lives this winter.
Where would you advise that those people go that you cannot bring in?
So we always try to connect people if they do have any eligibility for the motel program. We sit and make those calls with people. We also have some emergency supplies as a last-ditch effort. Sleeping bags, warming blankets, boots, coats, hats, as something to say that we care and we want to help. So that's what we try to do. We've been very successful in navigating inroads into shelter for a lot of folks, especially families over the course of the fall and the early winter. working closely with the state when they stepped up some shelters. Many of those referrals came through us, through our family shelter programs. We try to meet the individual need that's in front of us every day. I think so.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just want to thank you
Thank
and
you.
your staff.
I appreciate
I mean, it's heartbreaking. You asked that last question, what do you say when there's some more room at the end? I mean, that's just so heartbreaking. And for folks who are doing the work day in and day out and helping so many, the pain of saying no room at the end is brutal, and you bear it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing. So this is good. You're warm. And did you want some?
Yeah, would you prefer to answer a few questions? Year round?
Yes.
There's 30 at the working shelter.
Mostly Trump's transition.
There's
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
58 overall.
Right, thank you. And we project to have 50.
I'm Shirley, by the way. I'm with the Hassy. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, Shirley. Yeah.
36 at the way station, 30 here.
Okay.
So do you think that the Trump transition will be a smooth process?
Number one, I do. We're going to have a smooth transition and no January 6th repeat. So that's number one. Number two, the president's going to be entitled to the benefit of the doubt on his cabinet nominees, but not a blank check. So there'll be some very contentious ones, and probably a few I won't vote for, but it'll be with an open mind to trying to accommodate him getting started as quickly as possible.
What do you think the Joe Biden's administration legacy will be?
You know, as time goes on, I think we're going to look back and see that where he made the major decision to have the federal government be actively engaged in helping steer economic policy, and then the investments in chips and science, the investment in infrastructure, things that will last for generations, I think that's going to wear well. Obviously, the border is an issue that is not going to wear well because he changed at the end of the time. But I think at the end of the day, his ability to get cooperation from our allies to defend Ukraine, his ability to focus on recovery from COVID, infrastructure, the Chips and Science Act, I think those will serve him well.
Okay, and my final question is, will you support RFK Jr.?
I'm going to be meeting with him this week, so that'll be relevant to my decision. I have concerns about his vaccine skepticism or hostility. I have some appreciation for his focus on wanting to get pharmaceutical prices down and also the additives in our food. I want healthier food.
Thank you.
Thank you.